Before I ask the panelists on stage, can I quickly ask our international officer, Stefan Windberger, to come to the stage and join me here? We need a mic for you. Is this on? Thank you. Stefan, it's already been mentioned that a few of the people who are here today from Progresivne, from Nowoczesna, from Momentum, are also organized within the New Central Europe initiative that you co-initiated with Angelika Mlina. Can you give us a few ideas what is New Central Europe about?
Absolutely. So,
it's not.
Yes, should be on. Great. So what is the New Central Europe initiative? We figured last year, in September, that it's about time to do something against the Orbans of this world. And something that is more than just complaining, than saying, okay, this is not good. In the Neo spirit, we figured, okay, we will provide an alternative. We will provide a pro-European alternative, and we will together work with parties or civic movements that are like us, like Neos. That are not old parties that dominate the scene and that have had their glories a long time ago, but that do something for the citizens, with the citizens. And together with my colleagues from Progresivne Slovensko, which is a new party in Slovakia that got founded this year in January, with Momentum, who garnered 250,000 votes in Hungary against the Olympic campaign of Orban, and with Nowoczesna in Poland, we said, let's do something together. And we founded this movement in September last year in Bratislava, together with Progresivne, together with Nowoczesna, together with Momentum. We drafted a quick manifesto of what we stand for, 2 pages, which I'm happy to distribute to anybody who's interested, and launched joint events to provide an alternative against the Visegrad countries, to provide a pro-European alternative, and I'm happy that all of them are here. And thank you again for coming.
You already said it should be a model opposed and in contrast to the Visegrad states. So with the European elections coming up next year, and we'll talk about that on the panel as well, what further collaboration would you expect from New Central Europe in the coming months?
I mean, for us, one thing obviously that is tremendously important is to find common ground for the next elections and to think about what does that mean in terms of content. We've discussed on a number of occasions in Warsaw, we've discussed in Budapest, we've discussed at the ALDE Council as well in Sofia. And for us, one of the things, and that's also something that Beate mentioned, is we have to have a continent that is free and secure. So it's about making sure that our external borders are not in Styria, where I come from, in Spielfeld, or not in Sopron, but that we have common external borders, not within the Union, but at the borders of the Union. But it's also about working together, about innovation, allowing people within the European Union to start a company within a day, like it's possible in Singapore or the UK. And it's also about civic movements like Emmanuel Macron, and we hope that we'll find some common ground to do something together with him, to organize something with the citizens, like the way Neos does it. Civic movements and to discuss how the future of the European Union should look like through these civic conventions. And that's something we work on. And we also want, especially now, when you look at Hungary, when you look at the last newspaper, Magyar Nemzet, shutting down its doors, there's no more independent daily in Hungary. When you look at Poland, no more independent judiciary, that we are the ones who not only say this is wrong and we stand against it, but we provide an alternative, and that is a free and united Europe, and that's what we want to do for next year.
Thanks a lot, Stefan. With that, may I ask the distinguished panel to me on stage. Please give a hand to Joanna Burnos from Nowoczesna, Ivan Stefunko from Progresivne Slovakia, Susana Solis Perez from Ciudadanos, Daniel Berg from Momentum, and Beate Reisinger of Neos. Please take your seats. So for the next 40 minutes, we'll sit here on those bar chairs. So I'll have a couple of questions, but of course, as always with Neos, if you have questions or comments too, please raise your hand. And definitely in the third round, we'll get to you. But if you have a question or comment before that, please make yourself visible, and we'll try to include that. So first of all, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We already talked yesterday, Beate talked about it and Matthias talked about it too, that we really face a battle in Europe at the moment, a battle about the future of Europe, a battle between the populists and the nationalists on one side, and on the other side there are liberal movements and fortunately also many new liberal movements that have been founded or entered national stage in the last years. And we have 5 of them here, 4 of them are guests, 1 of them a host, and some of them are already in parliament. Some of them have had their first elections recently and will have their next elections soon, meaning the European elections, or we'll talk about it, communal elections, and so on. So perhaps for the first round, as I'm sure not everyone knows the movements here, could I ask to quickly introduce your movement? Daniel is the international officer of Momentum, so perhaps you could talk about what Momentum is, when it has been founded, and perhaps also quickly give us an example of the work you're doing in Hungary and the fight you're fighting against Orban and Fidesz. What successes did you already have? Perhaps if Daniel, if you want to start.
Thank you.
It's on.
Great. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Beate, and congratulations. And thank you, Matthias, for all your hard work. So yes, as it was mentioned, I'm from Momentum in Hungary, which, like Neos, also began as a civic movement of young Hungarians, many who were educated in the West, professionals, teachers, doctors, engineers, who were really quite fed up with, on one side, the moves of the Orban regime, and on the other hand, the kind of inefficiency of the opposition parties in representing them. And our first big project was the Olympia project, about more than a year ago now, where we collected, as it was mentioned, more than 250,000 signatures in a petition to stop the Budapest bid for the Olympics. On one hand, it was a very symbolic issue because Orban cares quite a bit about sports, and it was something close to his heart. But also, it was to talk a little about the issues of democratic decision making. On one hand, that people should have a say in a project of this size, and on the other hand, about corruption, which is a huge problem in Hungary. So since then, we've had our first election. We received 178,000 votes, which was a bit short to get into parliament, but
3.1%, right?
That's right, yes, 3.1%. The threshold is 5. And now we're preparing for European elections, for municipal elections, and hope to continue working with you in the region.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Joanna, Nowoczesna, how are you doing in the fight against the PiS government there?
Nowoczesna was established, I perfectly remember the date, on the 31st of May 2015. And I remember it because my son was very little at that time. He was like 5 months. And me and my husband decided to go and join the movement of Nowoczesna, which was established by a famous economist in Poland. And we were a little bit arguing who of us is going to go there. And I said, I will go because I've been always interested in politics. This is my field of specialty. And I will make a good use of my participation in that event. And you can see I did it, I'm here. So since that time, the momentum was good, actually, because it was only 5 months before the national parliamentary elections, which took place in October 2015. And we managed to mobilize society and gained a result of almost 8%, which was very good as for a startup. I will pass your applause to my colleagues because we really appreciate it and need it these days in Poland. And what's more, the party was created on the contrary to civic platform, which was the previous Polish government, and our target group was mainly entrepreneurs, people from big cities that were disappointed by the former 8 years of government. And the important signal to launch the movement was failing the presidential elections by Bronisław Komorowski. And this was something that gave us a huge kick to take things in our hands. And our founder, leader, Ryszard Petru, was going through whole Poland, which is a big country, almost 30 million people. So you can imagine it was a huge thing to do. But we succeed, and right after the elections, it turned out that Law and Justice took the majority, and they will be able to rule by themselves. It was, of course, terrible thing to know, but it gave the opposition parties again more power and I would say encouragement within the civic society to again take things in their hands, because it has never happened in Poland after '89, after the transformation process, that people were going to the streets. And it happened after the Law and Justice took the government. There were massive protests, not only in Warsaw, which you probably have seen, not only against tightening abortion law, but also against politicizing judicial system in Poland. Because right now the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court is totally politicized. And people saw it. People understood it, that they have to be there to protest against the ruling party. And although it sometimes required leaving their families during Christmas time, they were there in the streets. And this was something that gave us another energetic kick to move forward. And right now we are creating a coalition with Civic Platform, which was not easy. Because, as I mentioned, we were created on the contrary to the civic platform. And there was a huge expectation from the civil society side that we will unite together against Law and Justice. And we did it. And I have to say that we are quite successful, at least for the moment, because we are going with our campaign already through whole Poland, because we are having these elections in autumn 2018. So we are presenting our candidates in big cities for presidents, common ones, and also for the local parliaments we will have common lists. So it functions, and we hope to win. What we can say is in some polls we already gained more than Law and Justice, but the problem is, will we have normal, fair elections? Because Law and Justice have all the tools to falsify them. I'm not saying they will do it, but there is a serious threat. So we have to be careful. We just launched a committee who will watch the elections, which consists of all the opposition party, well-known authorities coming from legal area and also politicians. And we have to be very careful with the subject, and we will take responsibility for that.
Thank you very much. I think what Momentum and Nowoczesna show is how governments can be defeated and can be battled outside and inside of Parliament. Another very good example, even Stefunko is the chairman and the founder of Slovensko, Progressive Slovakia. You're a tech entrepreneur and have founded this new movement together with other entrepreneurs. Perhaps you can talk about that and how you're fighting the Smer government.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me. Congratulations for the new challenges. So, yes, for 16 years I have been a tech entrepreneur. I founded several tech companies in Slovakia, which became big, and also I've been employing a lot of people. I'm a father of 3 children, and for 16 years I think that Slovakia haven't used its potential at all. You know, really. Probably we are not in such a problematic situation like Poland or Hungary, but it will come if we do not do anything. So for years we have been meeting with other people like lawyers, teachers, cultural activists, civic activists, and we were discussing so what to do with all this thing what is happening in Slovakia. And you know, we have a smer government with nationalist and the Hungarian minority party. On the other hand, also the opposition is not a big win. You know, you have some kind of like nationalists, liberals, but which are not liberal. You know, so I mean, everybody is either nationalist or like far right. So we have decided to create something which is going to be really progressive. So we called ourselves Progressive Slovakia. We did not invent any special name, and we've put together like really big pool of people which are really good, which can be ministers or leaders in the future in many of their sectors. They are leaders in either judiciary things or culture or entrepreneurship and so on, international relation. The thing is that we have 2 years, or when we were created, it was 3 years until the next parliamentary election. So it's not really easy to be an athlete and you have your competition on Sunday, and on Tuesday you are sitting and you want to compete. You know, so this is not easy. But formally, we have been founded as a party or as a movement in January. Since that time, we are like climbing up. So we started with 1%, 2%, 3%, and now yesterday the last polls were published, so we are on 4%, and we need 5% to enter in the parliament. But it's not our aim. Our aim is to have at least 10 to really hold the keys and really to influence the country. So this is it. We are trying to foster ideas which are estimated in Slovakia, like education, but also European Union. We are really fighting for human rights, which is not so easy now in Slovakia if everybody is conservative. So it's not so easy, but we are going to get there.
Great. Thank you. I think you said something very important there, that you know it might not be a situation like perhaps in Poland or in Hungary with Orban and the Law and Justice government. It might not be as bad, but if we don't do something now, like it was said yesterday, right? If we don't fight for freedom now, there might be nothing left to fight for later. So thank you for that. Of course, one role model for many other liberal startups across Europe, like En Marche, is Ciudadanos. En Marche has already done it. Ciudadanos might do it soon. You have been leading in the polls for quite some time now. Now there has been a government change. I think it was quite a tricky situation for Ciudadanos as well. But perhaps, Susana, if you could give us some ideas, what are the factors behind the success of Ciudadanos? What's the story behind it?
Okay. As you know, Ciudadanos is a new party, as NEOS. And we started as a movement in Catalonia, and the party was founded as a regional party in Catalonia just in 2009. We decided to take the leap to the National Congress just 2 years ago, in 2016. In 2015 was when Matthias was supporting us. We won 32 MPs. So since then, we have MPs and seats in all the regional parliaments and in all city councils. And so last December, we won the Catalonian elections, although still the president is this xenophobic man that is still in the power. But these elections, gaining the Catalonian elections, gave us a lot of power in Spain. And according to the polls, we are now in the first in the polls, and we could win the next elections in Spain. So the chances are real good. Although, as we know, we are in political turmoil in Spain. We are calling for early elections. But the reality is that a new government has, we have a new government in Spain since 2 weeks, supported by 22 different small parties. You can imagine, supported by communists, supported by populism, supported by nationalism. So we think that the only solution we have for Spain, for stabilizing this situation, is to call early elections. And we are the only one who are calling for elections because all other parties know that we could win and we could start a big liberal party in Europe, what is very important for us. We are fighting populism, we are fighting nationalism, as I told you, and we are also fighting this bipartisan system that has been governing Spain for 40 years. And we think is that people like from us. We are citizens. Ciudadanos means citizens in Spanish. And we are citizens moving to politics more than politicians posing as citizens. And that's something that they like from us, because the old conservative socialist axis is no longer the answer to the Spanish problems. Where citizens demand modernity, they offer the past. Where citizens demand reforms, they offer stagnation. And where citizens dream of union, they offer old divisions. So we are something fresh in Spain. I think we are very similar to Neos, and that's why I am sure that we will have the same results and the same future that we can have in Spain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Ciudadanos is really interesting because you started in Catalonia, right? You started as a regional party and then basically grew from there, whereas the other parties who are represented here and most of the other liberal political startups would be founded nationally first and then, like Neos and others, scaling on down to the regional level, so to say. Beate, listening to all of those movements, what would you say, what can all those Muslims learn from each other? What is it that binds us together, and what is it that we can do together?
Well, first of all, congratulations to you all, because I think it's a very competitive surrounding that we are all in, and we know that it's not easy at all. I'm very sorry for momentum. It was so close, actually, but I think it's great that you keep the pace and you say, okay, then next regional elections and European elections. I think that's also the spirit we need. Well, I think what we all have in common is that we started as a grassroots movement. There's one founder or a couple of people founding, like Matthias did, but people from all over the country, people, as we say, as the middle of, from the middle of the society, stood up and said, okay, I want to do politics as well. I can't do politics. I want to stand up for my values and my beliefs. And the second thing is, it's about the values, actually. And I think that we all are value-based organizations, value-based political parties. We are all liberal parties, but I think compared to some very historical liberal parties, old liberal parties in Europe, we have a different history. It's more the history of a movement of people sharing the same values and standing up for them. And that's really great. And of course, Ciudadanos, I mean, really, I would love to be as successful as you are, and I think we should keep in contact on how. I think the founder was naked on a maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. What Beate is referring to, that Albert Rivera, the founder and chairman of Ciudadanos, he's an ex-swimmer. Okay.
We're out.
He was on a poster, naked, basically, only covering, No,
but they fight for transparency, and they have a big fight on anti-corruption. And I think this is also the similarity we all have, like to have clean politics. That's
yes. And I think, as you said, right, it's really amazing that we are not alone, right? It's not, we are not alone as individuals because we're here in a movement, but even as a movement, we are not alone. There are many others across Europe springing up, standing up, and really fighting the good fight, which is really necessary and more than ever. Let me just look into the audience. Are there any questions or comments so far? Because, yeah, there's one, Dominic. So, yeah, let me just jump down to you. Here we go.
Thank you. Dzień dobry, to pytanie dla Nowoczesnej. I'll speak in English so everyone else can understand, but I looked at the most recent polls for Nowoczesna, and it's not looking too bright. And I know, of course, the history of what happened with Richard Petru and so on. So I'd just like to know, what is it you're currently doing to make sure that next time you're going to make it into parliament again?
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Unfortunately, you are right. We are around 5% right now in the polls average. But we gained some premium from the civil society for creating the coalition. So together we are stronger than separately, Civic Platform and us. So we will benefit from that. And if we introduce our people on the local level, then this will be some energetic boost for the whole party. Of course, the leadership was changed in November 2017. Of course, we faced numerous problems. We had some rough time behind us, but we are really, really mobilized within the party, and our new leader is very, I would say, reasonable and sees the needs of the civil society. So that this is not a time for Solist politicians. This is time to work united, and it's not only the case of Nowoczesna, it's the case for the whole Europe, actually, because in order to face populism, we have to take our ambitions and leave them in pockets. I mean personal ambitions, of course, because as party we have to have high goals. So I can assure you that Nowoczesna is not giving up, and we will succeed, and we do our best on the local levels, because I was traveling also across the Poland, and I see how people take care that we will take the challenge and introduce as many people as possible on the local level in the local parliaments and have our own presidents, Bürgermeisters und so weiter.
Just on a side note, I think the story of Nowoczesna is interesting because in 2016, you really shot up in the polls, right? You were about 20–25%. You were the opposition leader. Yeah. And then, due to some, let's say, judgmental errors of the leader back then, Richard Petru, then the party started to drop in the polls. And then there was, in 2017, as I said, there was a competitive vote at the party congress, and Richard Petru was ousted as a party leader by Katarzyna Lubnauer. Now, I think that's very interesting because, of course, we are facing a handover right now. And I think it's fair to say that the way it happened in Nowoczesna with a very egotistic leader was very painful for the party itself, even though I think Katarzyna has made a lot of progress right now. And I think, as you said, Nowoczesna is much united. But the way the handover happened was very hard and difficult and damaged, I think, the polls, right? Yes.
I think it's also worth adding, there was a real threat that we will split as a party, because the difference between the result of Richard Petru and Katarzyna Lubnauer was just 5 votes. And it was the atmosphere was really high, people were very polarized within the party, but we stayed united. Richard decided to take his own path and is now a solist, I would say. But as I said, we need patience. Patience is something that is crucial in politics, and we have to be mature, and that's it.
Thank you. Beate.
I just want to add something to that question, because I think that shows that we have the importance of the common values. Because we in Austria, we face parties that are founded by a founder and then they split up after some months because they are not capable of having like the same really values that all the members, all the activists share. And this is really actually a big damage also for the democracy. So what all we have in common is that we are, and I think the last 2 days showed that, I mean, the founder like faded out, and I'm now the new leader of the party, and still we are all there sharing the same values, and we know that it's going to go on just the way we did the last month. And this is really different. This is one part I wanted to say. The second is what I really found interesting, and I think this is just one thing we have to focus on our work as NEOS, is that you all managed to get the civil society on board. And I think this should be something that we should focus our work on even stronger now that the Greens are not in the parliament anymore. Because I know that in Austria, the civil society is very much left-wing, actually. And the Green Party, there really was a close tie between the civil society and the Green Party. I think our role as a pro-European, progressive party, based on liberal values, on human rights, should really be also to be the link to the civil society. And this is really like a task we have to do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing. I didn't want to start by it, but when we started to create the civic association or the think tank on the beginning, we were afraid of having this kind of problems like you had or some other parties.
Just to give context, so you started a think tank first with the idea to then perhaps transform it into a party.
And so after the election we were not really satisfied with the opposition or neither with the coalition, so we gathered like 50 people, really like bright people with a lot of values and so on, and we started to write something as a vision of Slovakia in 2030. So we gathered people from different like sectors and so on, and this document is some kind of our like ideological contract. So it's, I mean, it's a manifesto is a little bit tinier. This is a book, and this is like really answering the question: either are you right or left? Are you conservative? So everything is in the book, and it's well written, so people can really just orientate themselves. That's the first thing. And the second thing, the leadership. In fact, a lot of the founders are strong personalities, but at the end it was like, you should do the president, you should do the president. We were not really having this kind of macho contest and attitude. So I was the last to take the thing, but and I didn't mention we will have a presidential election, and our vice president Zuzana Čaputová, which is one of the most famous civic activists in ecological sphere and also in the human rights sphere, she's now running for the president, and she's in her 40s. She has really nice chances to win. So that's also how we are trying to promote also other faces.
Great.
Just one tip for you, because when we started in Catalonia, the people said that we didn't have any chance to go to a national level, and they bet that we couldn't survive more than 2 years. They were wrong. They were wrong, because we incorporate a lot of people from socials, so from the civil society. And they told us we didn't have any experience in politics and so on. They were wrong, and we had a lemma, and it was, after being naked, our leader, we had the lemma, impossible is just your opinion. And we demonstrated that impossible is just one opinion, and you can do it, and you can make it like us.
So, perhaps, looking forward to close off, looking forward to 2019. Of course, there are elections coming up. Joanna already mentioned there will be elections even this year on the communal level in Poland. But of course, there's also the mayoral election in Madrid, I think, where Ciudadanos has really, really good chances of actually getting the first governor, the mayor of Madrid. But perhaps you can talk about that later. Daniel, what are the expectations of momentum for the European elections, and how are you gearing up for this?
Well, we find it very important, the European elections in particular, because it has a strong symbolic value when you have a government that's openly fighting with Brussels, fighting with the union, trying to cause division inside. So I think it's very important to show that that Orban doesn't represent all of Hungary, that there are people who do care about Europe, who do care about European values. So yes, we hope to send 2 representatives to the European Parliament. If everyone who voted for Momentum goes and votes in the EP now, then we will likely have 1. So we would like to be ambitious and go for 2.
It's a different electoral system, right? It's proportional.
Yes, and that's very important. It's good that you mentioned that. It's basically the only fair electoral system that a Hungarian party can participate in. As you probably know, Orban has gerrymandered the electoral law, the districts, so it's very favorable to the government party. What I think is particularly important is in this region to work together against these kinds of populist nationalist forces, because we see that this is kind of a domino effect, right? Orban started in 2010, then you had Poland. Now there are also tensions here in Austria, if I understand correctly. So it's our responsibility to show that in Central Europe there is still a strong progressive and liberal presence that does believe in these values. So I hope that we will have the opportunity to work together during that election as well to talk about these issues that span across borders and are really about the whole of Europe.
Good luck for that. So potentially 2 new European representatives from Momentum. Joanna, what's the ambition of Nowoczesna for the European elections?
Ambitions are very high, but the problem is reality. We have to... That's a detail, right? No, I said it because the situation in Poland, according to European elections, is very dynamic, because Law and Justice 2 days ago introduced a project in our lower house of the parliament, in Sejm, saying that they will guarantee each constituency in Poland 3 places in the European Parliament. Because before it happened like that some of the constituencies, according to the results, they had less. And right now they are going to make sure that there are at least 3 in each constituency, meaning people who are not interested in European affairs, let's say, who are not participating in the elections before, will get the guarantee that from their region they will have 3 MEPs. So they are shifting the power for European Parliament to the east of Poland, which is, of course, their electorate. And this is very, very risky, because taking into account this idea, we can lose. And another crucial factor is that they also introduced a change regarding the elections threshold. Before it was only 5%, and right now it's 15%. Yes. So we will be obliged, we will have to, whether we want or not, create a coalition again, probably. There will be a huge discussion on that in Poland. Probably they will go for voting during the next parliamentary session on this law, and they have majority, so they can do what they want, to be honest. According to your question, what are the ambitions? As I say, they are high, but we need to take into account the new conditions and then react to them responsibly. Of course, there's another thing which is linked to the Donald Tusk role, because he is now in Brussels, but he is coming back probably soon. And there are some rumors that he will try to establish some movement, and it's still unknown, and this stays only in the sphere of rumors right now. But I think that the situation will be very, very dynamic. What we need to face during the election time, at least in Poland, we need to start acting like we did before Polish accession in 2004. Meaning we have to go very locally to the people. We need to establish again European clubs in each secondary school. We need to organize debates in the universities, because to be honest, I'm sick of debating within the a crowd of experts, because we are already convinced. And Nowoczesna doesn't have any MEPs right now, but there are partners from our today's coalition civic platform, and I'm just wondering how much time do they spend talking to normal people? You won't do this campaign through Facebook only, yeah, being on social media. People don't understand Europe that much, to be honest. They don't see the benefits. Of course, they see that there's a new pavement in the street, that there's a new kindergarten, which was financed by the EU funds, but they think it is the success of the government, because no one told them it's the EU money. And Poland is the biggest beneficiary of structural funds from the EU. So this is our task, to show these people this and this and this comes from EU. The Wi-Fi, the free movement of people, and so on. This is EU matter. And this is crucial, and this is a task for us in Poland, and I think also not in Poland, and a task that can unite also us within our initiative.
Thank you. Thank you. Ivan.
It's really hard to speak always up after Poland, because they have so much problems that I feel that I live in heaven. Okay, so I will try to dramatize, even if we are... I'm sorry to make jokes. I mean, no. It's starting by some kind of political strategy. I've been in the headquarters of Ciudadanos 1 month ago, also with Josef and with other people. And what I liked really is that I felt some optimism from you, you know. And all the opposition and coalition in Slovakia, they are only criticizing. And I'm trying to foster in our movement, do not criticize, propose. Just show how to do it. Show what means are you going to use, with which people are you going to do that, and so on. And I think that this thing is really working, especially if you speak to like optimist or like rational people. So that's how to do it, I think, and it was worth for you. European elections. So Slovakia is the very pro-European country, but having the lowest participation in the election. The last election it was 13. Come on, I mean it's terrible. You know, people really like European Union, but they are not participating on the election. Probably they think that everything is well, so they do not have to say anything more. But we want to take the opportunity to be very, very active in those elections. So on 1st of July we are deciding on our candidate list already. 1st of July, we have 20 people who want to present themselves, super quality people, not only that I'm European, but they have also their specialization in the European Union, and they are going to be some kind of like internal competition, and then from the 1st of September we are going to promote those names and debate with people, go around Slovakia. Slovakia is a smaller country than Poland, so it's easier. So really, I mean, and we want to put European topics into the discussion of Slovak politics, and I think we can do that. It's easy to do it, but you have to find the hack, you know. So that's it.
Thank you, Susana. Can I perhaps say a few sentences about the mayoral election in Madrid? Because, of course, you know, having a mayor in the capital is also an ambition for us.
Yeah, we have a great leader like you. But in Spain, the European elections will be held at the same time than local and regional elections. But even though we want to focus also in Europe. And just one thing, I wanted to say something before that, because according to the polls, we could move from 2 to 15 MPs in the parliament, in the European Parliament, what is very important. But our ambition, is what I want to say here, is to have a large liberal and centrist-based family with a strong voice in Europe. This is our ambition, that we are able to gather and to integrate so many parties as possible. En March, you are also progressive, momentum. So we have to work together to attract so many liberal parties that we share the same values, that we think the same, to make a strong voice in Europe. And this is our first ambition because it's very important. We are a pro-European party. And the second ambition is to have one of the city council, to have a mayor. Begoña Villacís is our leader. I think you met her before. She is great, and we are sure that she's going to change Madrid, because Madrid will be the window to show what we expect from Spain. We want Spain modern. We want progressive. We want innovation. And we want a woman as a mayor, and we think that we will reach that with our leader, and we have great chances to gain this election.
Best of luck for that.
And we are going to host the next ALDE Council in Madrid. So that's an opportunity to meet you all again, and to talk about the manifesto, to talk about our big liberal family, and it will be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the ALDE meeting is after the elections?
No, before the elections.
Before, okay, that's so it's going to be the old Madrid we're going to visit. Great.
Beate, what's the ambition of NEOS for the European elections?
Well, I think that the European elections are the most important elections for us, and it's actually a good opportunity to really shape our message towards the people, because we are the only, and I mean that, pro-European party in Austria, and we should show that, and we should be very strong on the message, and I agree totally with you. We had a discussion on Wednesday, which was wonderful, in our Salon N, a discussion with experts on the European Union, but actually it's always preached to the converted, and I started working in Europe or for the European Union, or like I was also studying a master in European studies, I think in 2002. That was also the first time I went to the European Forum Alpbach, and I was there listening to all the discussions and the people, the politicians complaining that Brussels is too far away from the people, and nationalists are threatening the common European project, and actually it didn't change at all, because they always preached to the converted. We were all sitting around and said, yeah, you're right, yeah. Oh, but what can you do? Yeah, I mean, that's too little. And I remember, as I was studying in Krems for this Master in European Studies, I was sleeping in a hostel there when it was too late, the curriculum too late in the evening, so I stayed in Krems. And the landlady there, she was very Eurosceptic, EU skeptic. And one morning we were sitting on the table, and she was really like complaining, what has the European Union done for me, like in this way? And I realized it's those people we have to talk to, and not only like also saying, listen, this bridge is financed by the European Union, but also like stressing out what Europe is about. I also had a second discussion this week about Europe. And after I left, I got an email by one of the participants, and she wrote me, well, it was a wonderful discussion, and we didn't even talk about peace. And I think this is also a very great message. I mean, we talked a whole afternoon about the European Union and about Europe, and we didn't even mention one time that the goal and the target of this project is peace. And this is such an important issue. So I would say, let's go out and really talk to the people. And start a really pro-European movement, but not preach to the converted, preach to the other ones. Yeah, and one thing, I think regarding this probable alliance, I mean, our government, our chancellor, he makes alliances, which we are very skeptical about, and it's really one thing we have to be very, very awakened. what is going on and what is really the goal of the Austrian government regarding the European Union, because everybody says he's pro-European, but in fact it's no coincidence that he's meeting with the Orbans and the Seehofers and Salvinis of this in Europe. So I think we have to be very open-minded towards a pro-European liberal movement, but still also being very realistic about the fact that this is also a very, very tricky and difficult task for the ALDE, because not every member of the ALDE is thinking the same way. So I would say my approach would be to be open-hearted and open-minded towards this movement, but also to be realistic. I do not want to have a split ALDE, actually.
Thank you very much. Our time is out, so unless there's one question we'll take on board. Of course, there's a great book coming out in November where you can read all the stories of all those parties.
It's a great author.
In more detail. I forgot the name of the author, but it come to me. But yeah, there's one question. We'll take that on board, and then we'll have you over for lunch.
Yeah. Hello. Of course, I will read the book. Still, I hope I can ask a short question. As also being very pro-European, obviously, and convinced, I would like to know whether there are any expectations in the next campaign to have some kind of pan-European public, meaning, or what one sign for that would be if each country's political debate are influencing each other. So is what discussed in Austria also influencing in Hungary, or has influence or has a reflection in Hungary, and vice versa, and whether this is something which could be expected this time around more than last time.
So the question of the European citizen is something that's being discussed in Austria, also reverberating in the region, and what can we potentially contribute to also integrate and create a more European public? Is there something that we as parties can do? Perhaps some quick thoughts.
Just one short comment. I think that we as pro-European, we have a good task, because we can promote the same ideas: stronger Europe, and so on, more cooperation, education, and so on. Those conservatives, they have a much harder task, because they contradict each other on Europe, you know, when they are pushing migrants from one border to the other, or, for example, they have different views on America and so on. So probably the best case for us would be to have a clear manifesto and to read from it on the meetings, you know, and really those are our partners. We are going to transform Europe in this way, you know. So I think that we should do that in November in Madrid, and then transform it.
I think that it is very important to show that there is an alternative for these nationalistic and populistic movements. We need to show our power. We are sometimes I have an impression that we are too polite because we do not stand up, yeah? And if they meet, like the Visegrad group, and now your chancellor joined the club, let's say, we need to do the same. We need to show our leaders that they cooperate, that they discuss things, and that they are making some assumptions and have common program. Because on certain issues, we can have common program. There is migration policy, there are several different subjects. But on the other hand, in the same time, all the campaigns in all the member states have to be tailor-suited. Because the needs and expectations of all societies differentiate from each other a little bit. So it is very good. It is very crucial to do, I would say, from a marketing, political marketing language, a good targeting to know the needs and to address them in the right way.
Thanks a lot. Daniel, you've got the last word.
Yes. So I think we definitely need to show power, but also solidarity with each other. the Orbáns and the Kaczynskis, they're working together and they will continue to work together. So we need a united, liberal and progressive force that will counter them as well. And I think some of the, Austria and Hungary have a long history of friendship and neighborly relations. I'd like to see that develop more honestly. So hopefully we won't be sending any more ministers to criticize, Vienna's neighborhood. We worked together on that project. Claudia was kind enough to send us a video before the election, which was very touching. So we'd like you to know that you have friends in Hungary, and all of you have friends in Hungary, and we'll be watching.
Thanks a lot for joining us today. Thank you for your questions. Have a good lunch.